Hi there, this is Andrew Brody with Yokogawa, and today I'd like to talk to you about Yokogawa's MW100 data acquisition viewer software. So the viewer software is used to look at MW100 data files. The MW100 has an online interface that you can see here, but this is really only good for you looking at real-time data. So you can kind of go through the web pages and you can see digital representations, you can see trends, you can see overviews of data, but it's really real-time data. If you want to actually take a look at your recorded data, you need to go ahead and install a copy of the MW100 viewer software. Now the MW100 viewer software comes on a CD, usually comes with an MW100, like the head unit, and that's the unit that you can put the memory card into. It has kind of start and stop, user 1, 2 buttons where you attach power to the unit. So it usually comes when you buy one of those. But you can also download the latest copy of it from this. So if you go to https://y-link.yokogawa.com, once you go to this page, you should see this screen here. A couple important tabs for you are the document library and the software download. So the first place I'd go is the document library here. Make sure you get a copy of the documentation for it. So I'd go to data acquisition equipment here. I'd go to MW100, and I'd go ahead and pick the manual here, do a search. Once you do a search, you're going to see all the different documents here. I usually do a little sort by date added here. And one more time so it's the latest. Okay, and then the one that you're going to want to download here is this right here. This IM MW18001E. I believe this is the 4th edition here. This is going to tell you all about how to use the MW100 users viewer. Okay, it also tells you how to use the IP setting software and the calibration software. So go ahead, get yourself a copy of that. The other thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're running the latest copy of MW100 viewer, and you can get that here. So once again, you go to software download, data acquisition equipment, you go to MW100, software type, let's just pick software here, do a search, and then you're going to get all the different types of software that you can get here. And so this is the latest version that you can get right here, the MW100 viewer. At this point, it's R3.04.01, but it's always good to check back here. This is filmed on April 1st, 2013. So there might be newer versions just depending on when you watch this video. There's also other stuff that you could get here, like you could go ahead and get the latest firmware for your MW100 drivers, stuff like that. So this is a very useful page for you to know. Now, one thing I'll say when installing the software, it's going to ask for a serial number. This serial number is not the serial number for your hardware. It's not the serial number on the side of the MW100. It's a serial number specifically for the software. This serial number would have come on a piece of paper with the CD when you originally purchased the MW100. So that serial number should be able to be reused even with newer versions of the MW100 viewer software. So make sure that you use the right serial number. It's the serial number for the software, not the serial number on the side of the MW100. Okay, so now that we've kind of gotten that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and close out those tabs, and I'm going to go ahead and start up the MW100 viewer software. So in this case, once it's installed, it's going to be under the MW100 viewer software, and it's going to be right here, MW100 viewer. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like with nothing up. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways of getting the files. First of all, you could go ahead and grab the files off the compact flash card, just stop the recorder, eject the card, put it in a USB card reader, and go ahead and copy your files over to a PC. The other thing that you could do is you could go to something like your computer folder here, or go to something like Start Computer. Okay, so either of these. So I hit the folder down here or computer there. And then once you're here kind of looking at your hard drive, you can just go like this. You can go FTP : the IP address of your MW100. So in this case, my IP address is 192.168.1.222. If for some reason you happen to have forgot it, you've also got the MW100 IP configurator that you can choose. That gets installed when you install the viewer software. And if you do a quick search, you can find an MW on your network, and you can kind of see there's the IP address. Okay, so once I do that, I go up here, FTP. You can see I'm browsing right to the compact flash on the MW100. Now, in this case, I have two different folders. I have a data folder and a manual folder. Manual is where my manual sample files are stored, and data folder is where my standard recorded data files are recorded. Now, if you see multiple data folders in here, essentially what it means is every time you've created a new configuration on your MW100 and you've started recording, it'll go ahead and create a new data. If your configuration stays the same and you just do stop and start recording, that's no problem. It's all going to stay in the same folder. So in this case, I've had, looks like about 8 different configurations that I played with on this MW100, and this data 7 is the latest data folder. So if I go ahead and open that up, we're going to see the files that are in here. And the ones that you're interested in are the MXD files. So the ones with M beside them, those are if I had math channels up and running on the MW100. So those contain the math data, and those contain the regular recorded channel data. So at this point, if I wanted to, I could just go ahead and select those, and I could go ahead and kind of copy them over to a folder on my local PC. So now I've moved those off the MW100 to a local folder on my PC. Okay, so there they are. I could go back to my data viewer here. I've got a couple choices. I could essentially just do a drag and drop. It's asking me to combine files because it noticed in the same directory I grabbed that file from, there were some related files that were kind of part of the same data set. And so it went ahead and did that. So you can see math channels are over here, and you can see regular data over here. The other thing I could do is I could just go File, Open. I could then go to my desktop, which is where that folder is stored. And then there's my MW100 data. And see, there's a MXC. Remember, we only had MXDs. That's the combined data file that we did when I kind of brought it in temporarily there. Or I can just kind of pick one of these, and you'll notice down here, it's giving me some statistics on it. You can see the math files only have 1 channel in them. You can see that the regular data files have 8 channels in them. So then I can just go ahead and open up one of those. Once again, it's asking me, do I want to combine? Sure. It's already saying that combined file exists, but that's okay. All right, and let me show you a third way to get to some data. Now, this isn't going to do the exact same combinations and stuff like that, but let me show you this. It's kind of a neat little trick. So I go File, Open. I can go directly to the MW. I go FTP, and then the IP address. See, I can go in here. And so I could say go to that manual sample file if I wanted to. Okay. And away it goes. It's going to download that manual sample file. And there it is. There's the manual sample file in there. So we can kind of see here's some of the manual samples I took. Okay, I could do the same for regular data files as well. Go to the data folder, data 7. No, pick the one that I want. Takes a second because it has to download it from the MW100. Oh, looks like that's a brand new file that doesn't have anything in it. So I could go ahead, go back. Go to data 7, pick something that does have data in it. My MW is currently up and running, and essentially it's creating a new file every half hour. So that one that I picked prior that didn't have any data in it, it was just created, like just literally seconds ago. But you can kind of see this one has data in it. And that was pulled directly from the MW using kind of FTP in the file area there. Okay, so let's close this out, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in one of these here and kind of show you how to use the data viewer here. Okay, so here's the data viewer. I'm looking at a combined file, so it's combined all the files that were in that folder that are part of the same group. Everything will stay as part of the same group as long as you don't hit stop recording. So if you just leave the MW100 continuously recording, say it's creating a new file every day automatically or a new file every half hour automatically, it'll go ahead and be part of a continuous data set. And as long as all the files are in the same folder, when you open one of them, it'll go, hey, I noticed there's other files in here that are of the same set. Would you like to combine them? And then you could go ahead and choose to combine them. All right, so what I have here is a MW100. I've got some floating channels. They're just kind of not hooked up to anything. I also have a temperature channel that is hooked up to something. And I've got a math channel that's essentially adding up some noise on a few of the channels. So we can kind of go down here if we wanted to and just kind of scroll through. We can kind of see some of the data. This is my temperature here that I go ahead and spiked up. All right, so let's kind of go quickly through the menu process here. So up here at the top, we got File. We can do stuff like Open, Close. The other thing is we can alter how these are displayed on the screen. So I'll show you how to alter that. But once you do, you can go ahead and save those. So you can go ahead and save how you're viewing the data. The other thing is you can go ahead and save as a template. So whatever changes you made to this can be saved as a template. So when you open up other files in the future, you can go ahead and use that template. So it can kind of pre-format the data. The other things that you can do here is you can, this is your combine your process. So if there are new data files that haven't been combined into this, that maybe have been FTP'd over or copied over since you did a combination like this, this can go ahead and either synchronize or combine those processes together. The other things that you can do are stuff like print. Once you go into print here, it's pretty much the standard things that you're looking for. All your ranges, what you're going to print to. You can also do a quick preview here. Print setup. You can go ahead and do your kind of standard print setup type stuff. You can open up files that you had previously opened up. Let's take a look at edit. You can go ahead and copy chunks of data, select chunks of data. You can go ahead and search for marks. Okay, and I'll show you up here what they are. You can also do reset marks. So if you want to put in a mark, you can literally go here, just click on the screen, kind of put your cursor somewhere, then you can go up here and hit this. That'll go ahead and put in a mark. Okay, bang. So there's a mark there. You can put in another mark here. And I could type whatever I want here. Okay. So those are just quick ways of dropping little marks on the screen here. And then kind of once I do that, I can go ahead and search mark. And then I can kind of do a right cursor move and keep going and find the next marks to the right. Okay. I can also do erase cursor now. That'll just get those blue lines. So there's my cursor on the screen. If I want to get rid of it off the screen, I just go erase cursor. Okay. So there's my search mark. I can go ahead and, once I've got a mark on the screen, delete mark, reset the mark. I can append marks. Let's see here. So that's your marks. These here can kind of do your left move, right move. You can put two cursors on the screen, so this is essentially selecting an area, and then you can kind of go, well, I want that cursor on that mark and that cursor on the other mark. So now I can essentially put my cursors right on my marks. Okay, and so this is essentially moving your left move for your cursor A, right move, left move for your cursor B. So there's cursor A, there's cursor B. So it just essentially allows you to jump your cursors to various marks so you can kind of select data within an area. You can also do stuff like here. See how it's showing channel 1 over here? I could go ahead and say, make that tag name, make that tag comment. In this case, tag comment, tag name were the same because I didn't really have a tag comment. We can also do stuff like alter the display settings. So say I wanted to change a channel name. Switch from linear to log for an axis. Change my scales. Put some zones on here. Trip lines. Change colors. I can go ahead and do that all on here. I could even get rid of channels if I don't want. So I can kind of go ahead, get rid of those channels. And then that'll just kind of get some junk channels off my screen that I didn't have set up anywhere. And then I could go back here and go ahead and save those display settings if I wanted to. Okay, go ahead and apply those display settings. Once again, just like I was checking up here on the menu bar, you can go by channel number, tag comment. You can also do absolute time or relative time. So if I go absolute time versus relative time, okay, so there's relative time. So that's from the beginning of the recording for relative time. And then absolute time is actually kind of what time of day the recorder has in it. Okay. I can get rid of my toolbar, my status bar. Up here, I can do stuff like, say, cascade my windows, tile my windows. I can look at it in graph view like I'm currently looking at it. I can look at it in sheet view. So here's more of like a tabular thing. See how my absolute time here? I can also go ahead and do relative time. These little green lines here, these are if you had alarms. So in this case, you're allowed 4 alarms per channel. There's actually no alarms going on right now. You can also see that some of these are in red. Those are essentially the values between the cursors. So if I scroll down a little here, you can kind of see on room temperature, I had an alarm come on. Then it went off. You can kind of see, I can just scroll here, check out some of my other channels. So that's, you can essentially see it under sheet view here, or here's sheet view as well. So there's the graph view, there's the sheet view, there's your absolute time, relative time. So a lot of these things that are in the menus are also on buttons. So I can tile automatically, horizontally, vertically, alarm mark. So here I can see all my alarms, my marks that I've gone ahead and put in. So these are the marks I added from the data viewer, mark and mark 2. Here's some marks I added while the MW100 was actually recording. So I did this through the real-time web page. So I just added in some of these various marks into the data. And if I kind of scroll through the data, you can kind of see in orange some of those marks that I placed in there. Okay. And you can see down here, see how there's this bar here? That's one of those alarm bars. for the room temperature. And then you can see there's another alarm bar a little lower. I had a high alarm and a low alarm. So essentially that's showing my high and low alarm. There's the high alarm. There's no alarms. We've also got stuff on here like control data. So we can place our cursor on the screen, and then we can kind of see some basics like what's the value of A, what's the value of B, what's the difference of the values. And then over here it's just showing the same for the math channel. So if I go ahead like that, go control, you can kind of show what was my value at A, my value at B, what was my difference. I can also go up here and do statistics on that range of data. So start data, end data, tells you what the sample number was, what's my min, what's my max, what my peak to peak was. We can go ahead here, mean, root mean square. I could go and pick a little more exciting chunk of data that has maybe a little more variation. And similarly, those numbers can be found here. So there's the control data. So there's my difference. And here's my statistical data. And so we can probably see that the information's a little better here. Like, for example, my room temperature, I can see that I had a minimum of 22.8, maximum of 28.6, gives me a peak to peak of 5.8, a mean of 26.7, and an RMS of 26.8. Okay, so kind of looking through all those again, we have open, save, copy. There's your display settings. We can go ahead and append a mark, move our cursors from marks to marks, display by channel, display by tag. If you have tag comments, you can display by tag comments. You can change your absolute time, relative time. You can go from graph to spreadsheet view. You can go ahead and list your marks and alarms. You can show your kind of control data, which is kind of like your difference between two cursors. You can show your statistical information, which is kind of a bit like this, but has a bit more information. Print, help. Let's move on to an actual screen here and kind of see what we can do with this screen. So we've got all types of different ways of looking at it. We've got a curtain here, so we can kind of give ourselves more real estate here. We can also kind of size it, open it up. We can get rid of pens, kind of reduce to just the pens we want to see. So maybe I just want to kind of see my temperature here. So there's my room temperature. So I've kind of gotten rid of all the ones I don't want to see. I can kind of change my background color and change my grid color. I can zoom in, zoom out. This is kind of showing user-defined zones. I can then go ahead and edit what those zones are. So I could go here. See how I kind of went and modified those a bit. So now I'm just kind of looking on there. Then I could take the entire thing and move it up to offset it a bit. Then I could also do full zone. So that's just kind of going max, min on the screen, what I set it to. Slide zone. What that does is shows a little more if I have some here, but it can kind of offset some of them a little bit. Auto zone, I can give them each their own zones. Multi-zone, so I can go ahead and kind of create a zone for each one. And then I can change my grids, make the grids denser. Zoom in. Let's make sure. I'll go back here so you can kind of see the grids, how they can get denser. This is interesting here. This is a clip a waveform. So if I have a range and I go out of range, I can go ahead and do a clip on it, and what it'll do is anything that kind of goes outside my ranges, you'll notice it here. So see, my range was right up there. Let's do an auto zone. So instead of kind of going beyond my range here, which was 0.1, I can do a clip, and that'll just essentially cut it off at the end of zone and complete the waveform. So if this was, let's see if I can zoom in a bit here. Yeah, so there you go. You can kind of see it's just clipping it. So it doesn't actually change the data. What it does is it just cuts it off and levels it out. So if this were a stretched waveform that went from kind of here to here and it went off the screen, it would just show a straight line across at my max value rather than shooting beyond whatever that value was. The other thing we can do is we can jump to alarms here. So I can kind of jump my left to various alarms. Go that way. I can do the same with my B cursor. I can jump to various alarms. So that kind of shows you just about everything here. You can do the same thing for the math channels over on this side. Let's now that we've kind of taken a look at how you can view your data, let's take a look at how you can export it. So you could go ahead and send it to an ASCII file. You can say what groups, like groups 1 through 1, or 8 groups. You could go groups 1 through 8. You could say what channels you want to do. So you could kind of go ahead and pick your channel, from which channel to which channel. So I could go from that to that channel. This is just my math channels over here. This is my regular channels over there, depending on what I want to export. I could also say right now it's going from cursor to cursor. I could go ahead and do a edit and erase cursor. And now if I go convert, it's from start to end. So it essentially is from beginning to end. But I could also place the cursor once again, just so I'm exporting the data that was within the cursors. I can kind of say 1, which means every chunk of data, or I could go something like 10, which is say every 10th chunk of data. And then I can go ahead and say what file I want to export that to. I can do the same for Excel. This just does it in Excel file, but all the settings are the same once again. Lotus, if you're still having to use Lotus. Information about data. You can get a little bit in here. File name, file recovery process, some of that. You could go ahead and put a print comment in here if you wanted to when you go ahead and print it out. Okay, so that pretty much covers the MW100 data file viewer. I think I covered most of the options for you. If there's something that wasn't covered here, you can kind of either leave a comment and we'll get back to you, or give us a call at Yokogawa. Hope this helps, and have a great day.